being the fastest quarterback you've never seen. I'll be right back. There's no quicker way to get into DFS. Play Super Draft today and see for yourself.
We're behind. They're all fired up. What we got to do? First place, our defense has got to go out there and take the ball. Then when we get the ball, we got to have 11 people that's going to do their job and try to score every time you get the football. If we do that, we'll be all right. If we do that, we'll be all right.
Happy Monday, everybody. This is Football University with the professor, me, former University of Alabama wide receiver, Matt Caddell. I hope all of you are doing well. Shouts out to all the students in the student section. Listen, we had a crazy football weekend. I'm so excited. I've been pumped all weekend. We're going to cover this insane NFL divisional round playoffs. We're going to talk about some of the things I noticed, and, we're going to find a way to bring it back to Alabama and discuss college football. So shouts out to the student section. Salute, please get in the student section, all the students out there, and let's get it started. And let's dive into this crazy football divisional round. Roll Tide. Before I get into the student section, keep them coming, but let's talk about Jalen Hurts. Fly, Eagles, fly. I mean, it has to be fitting that we start with Jalen Hurts, who has been trending the past couple of days. Fly, Eagles, fly. They put on an absolute clinic. People were wondering, they were able to, for the Philadelphia Eagles, were able to solidify that first round number 1 seed in the NFC, and people were wondering how Jalen Hurts was going to come out and play, and did they put on an absolute clinic? Fly, Eagles, fly. I mean, Devontae Smith had a touchdown. Jalen Hurts threw another touchdown too. Dallas Goedert. I still think the Philadelphia Eagles has the toughest offensive scheme to stop because they have so many run-pass options with a running quarterback in Jalen Hurts. But, man, shouts out to Jalen Hurts. It's been 40 years since an Alabama quarterback has won a playoff game since Richard Todd. And shouts out to Jalen Hurts. And I know all you OU fans out there, Boomer Sooner, it's been going a lot of back and forth between Sooner Nation and Bama Nation about who's claiming the rights to Jalen Hurts. But can we just celebrate Jalen? At the end of the day, it's both of us. We both can claim rights. There's no need for us to go back and forth. But, that's not how Alabama fans are, especially when it comes to Oklahoma. And Oklahoma's taking credit for Jalen Hurts. But, man, listen, this is going to be setting up for an incredible division NFC championship with the San Francisco 49ers. You look at the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, they dominated defensively in the trenches. You look at their offensive line, Kelsey, Lane Johnson, Landon Dickerson, we all familiar with. I mean, they just dominated and dismantled Dexter Lawrence, that front for the New York Giants, Kevon Thibodeau, and they're going to need it versus the San Francisco 49ers, who I will talk about later. So all the Niners fans out there, man, I just had to shout out Jalen Hurts and fly, Eagles, fly. But before I get to my next topic, let's get to the student section. Shouts out Spencer, Roll Tide Roll, William Bryant. Let's see, Van Edwards. Oh, man, shouts out to Van Edwards. Spencer, Van Edwards said, is it time for the Cowboys to dismantle the team and rebuild? Man, Van Edwards, since you started, we're going to go right there. What a disappointment. But before we say disappointment to the Cowboys, let's start with the Cowboys. How about them boys looking not good? Dak Prescott throwing 2 picks. I mean, you look at Dak, and you look at this past year, I mean, throwing, I think he had the lead in interceptions, 15 interceptions. He's getting paid $95 million. You had Ezekiel Elliott getting paid, and he's not even starting. Tony Pollard comes in. I mean, credit, the Cowboys score a lot of points. But again, as Stephen A. Smith says, what can go wrong will go wrong. I mean, Mike McCarthy, to bring it back to Alabama, Nick Saban is all about situational football, having discipline, knowing how to handle situations, 2-minute situations, clock management, game management. The Cowboys were lacking that in the end game. I mean, it was a great game there in San Francisco. The defense was playing well. Brett Maher was making field goals. Shouts out to Will Riker. I think Jerry Jones is going to call Will Riker next year and make sure he's going to the Dallas Cowboys. But yeah, the Dallas Cowboys, the defense played a good enough game, but I like to say it was missed opportunities for the Cowboys and bad coaching. I mean, Diggs dropped a pick. The defense held San Francisco 49ers to 19 points, but kudos to the 49ers. D'Amico Ryans led defense. Shouts out to D'Amico, showing the type of focus, the type of person that he is. He had 2 interviews earlier that morning on the day, but he counseled them just to show that he was focused, locked in with his guys, and it shows. He has the top leading defense, and they're going up to the link in Philadelphia for the NFC Championship. To me, this is the game. I mean, to me, this is the Super Bowl game right here. I mean, I think it's going to be better than a Super Bowl. This matchup, the Eagles and the Niners, oh my goodness. I will give you my picks later, but man, shouts out to the San Francisco 49ers. Before we get to the next topic, let's go to the student section. William Brown said, got my like button smash that like button. Roll Tide, sir. Let's go. 6-0, shouts out. Let's see, Cowboys lost. 6-0 says, D'Amico's defense is untouchable. Roll Tide. I mean, it is untouchable. I mean, they lead the lead in every statistical category, including the playoffs. First in points allowed. I think they're like second or third, right there with the Eagles in first down, giving up points, turnovers. I mean, D'Amico Ryans has that defense. And if you look at Fred Warner at the linebacker, he put on an absolute clinic. Nick Bosa, oh my goodness. I mean, those guys put on an absolute clinic. So shouts out to D'Amico Ryans. We know he's going to be a head coach somewhere. So we're pulling for you, D'Amico, here at Football University. That's what we do. Hit that like, subscribe button. But, man, can I get to my next topic? Oh, my goodness. I talked about the 49ers dominating the Cowboys. Cowboys looking not good. Dak Prescott choking it away. Bad coaching, missed opportunities, whatever you want to say. That last play was just, oh, my gosh. We'll talk about it later. We talked about Jalen Hurts and Eagles fly, how they dominated the G-Men. But for me, the biggest surprise of the weekend, the Cincinnati Bengals. Oh, my goodness. I'm sitting there eating a quick meal, with my wife before the game starts. And they're in Buffalo, New York. It's snowing. I mean, and it's not just regular snow. It's the thick snowflakes that are coming down, and you see it, and you're like, oh, my goodness. And Cincinnati comes out in the icy whites, ready, locked in. And from the opening kickoff, they drove down. Joe Burrow went 5 for 5 and threw a touchdown to Jamar Chase. I mean, and I was like, oh, my goodness. You know, you're thinking it's snow, Buffalo, New York, Josh Allen, DeMar Hamlin's in the stadium. So, you know, you got the emotion. You have all that. But yet the Cincinnati Bengals, led by Joe Burrow, put on an absolute clinic. I mean, it was unreal. P-Ron, I got to shout out Samaje P-Ron, Joe Mixon, all the Oklahoma fans out there. I mean, they rushed the ball. I've never seen a clinic of dismantling, and they should have had the score should have been longer. They took a touchdown back from Jamar Chase. I'm like, NFL, what is the catch? Can we talk about this? We will talk about that later. Hit that like, subscribe. But this is what we talk about Football University. Cincinnati Bengals, Joe Burrow, listen. I know they got to play the Kansas City Chiefs. Listen, Joe Burrow has beaten Mahomes and Josh Allen in the playoffs on the road. I mean, shouts out to the Bengals, man. Zach Taylor, Amanira. I'm probably butchering the defensive coordinator's name, but he put so much pressure with Milton coming off number 21, blitzing, disguising coverages. The Bengals, oh my goodness, were on one. The Bengals were on one. So shouts out to the Cincinnati Bengals. And the next game, Mahomes. I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs played the Jacksonville Jaguars, and you know, it was a little close, but the biggest news was Patrick Mahomes' injury. You know, he tried to stay in, he couldn't, but he came back, threw another touchdown. It's gonna be interesting. I mean, right now, I'm probably leaning Cincinnati versus the Chiefs, although they playing in Arrowhead, but I know the Chiefs have the revenge factor, you know, wanting to get to the Super Bowl, but Cincy, man, those Bengals, man, boys are no joke. I mean, defensively, coaching, Zach Taylor, D coordinator, they hit you in the mouth. They're physical. They run the ball. They got 2 running backs, and they did it with a backup offensive line. We all know Jonah Williams. Jonah Williams was not playing. He was out this game. So they were down 2 offensive linemen. They came with the 3rd, 4th string offensive line, and were physical. So shouts out to the whole Cincinnati Bengals organization, their GM, player evaluation, putting them in the best situation. So let's get to the student section real quick before we get to our next topic. Todd Colbert says, Eagles all D way. Wow, got a lot of Eagles fans. Fly, Eagles, fly. Van Edwards said, I don't understand how the Vikings can't go further in the playoffs. I mean, I don't understand about the Vikings. You know, they win the North. You think the NFC North, you know, they finally beat the Green Bay Packers. But, man, I don't know if it's Kirk Cousins. I think it was just, you know, they found a way to not win. So, shouts out to Brian Daboll and the Giants beating them. Shouts out to Nick Saban Jr. Bengals, Van Edwards said, Bengals versus Chiefs going to be something. Eagles and Niners. Listen, it's going to be an insane weekend. That Eagles-Niners game, I'm torn. Right now, I'm going to say I'm leaning towards the Eagles because they're playing in the league in Philadelphia. And if I have to pick between Brock Purdy, Jalen Hurts, I'm going to ride with my guy Jalen, my dog Jalen Hurts. Shouts out to Jalen Hurts. Them boys rolling, man. But that's going to be a matchup. You talking about a chess matchup? D'Amico Ryans versus Jalen Hurts. I mean, Nick Sirianni, Kyle Shanahan going against Philly's defense. It is going, I mean, to me, this game has, I wish this was a Super Bowl matchup because you have 2 evenly matched teams all around, 2 complete teams. But I'm going to give the edge to the Eagles right now because I think their roster defensively, Hassan Reddick, Jordan Davis, CJ Gardner-Johnson, Slay, the Bradbury at corner. I mean, these guys are complete. So right now I'm leaning to fly, Eagles fly. Let's get to the student section. William Bryan said, Matt, which teams do you see in the Super Bowl? Oh, William Bryan, you putting the pressure on me. So right now, today's the 23rd on Football University, this Monday. Right now, I'm going with the Eagles. Oh, and all my Niners fans. I grew up a Niners fan. Jerry Rice, you know, the GOAT for me. The reason I wanted to play wide receiver, Joe Montana, you know, oh my goodness, I love the Niners. Man, but if I have to make a pick right now, because they're playing in Philadelphia at the Link, Brock Purdy, I know he's good, but I need to see him how he plays on the road. This is not going to Seattle. This is going to the Eagles. So right now I have the Eagles and the Bengals. I'm going to go ahead and say it. I'm rolling the Bengals, man. I mean, golly, Mahomes, one leg. How effective is he? Is he going to be just a pocket passer? You know, the Bengals, they beat them last year in Arrowhead. We know it's going to be loud, but man, right now I got the Eagles and the Bengals in the Super Bowl. Let me know what your Super Bowl picks are. Somebody said the Cowboys equals Notre Dame. Everybody talks them up, and they never win the big game anymore. Or you can say the Big Ten, man, hours. But we'll say neither here nor there. Let's see. Shouts out to everybody. Nick Saban Jr., William Brown, Van Hours. Laura Caddell says, so Eagles versus Bengals, who is your winner? Oh my gosh, why are y'all putting the pressure on me? Oh my goodness, that is a toss-up. Give me one more week. Right now, I'm gonna roll with the. I just think the Eagles have a complete team when they're on. Their offense is so hard to defend. They have the toughest offensive scheme to defend because they have runs into their passes. And with Jalen Hurts, a mobile quarterback, man, but it's going to be important that Jalen gets some of those runs versus 49ers. But, I'm saying Eagles, Bengals, but it could easily be 49ers, Bengals, or 49ers, Chiefs, because you never know. But, man, oh, my goodness. I'm right now, I think the biggest odds, who has the best odds, are the Eagles and the Bengals to make it to the Super Bowl. So it's going to be interesting. When Brock says, I sure hope the Bengals don't make it. Listen, we all have, Bama fans, we might not be the biggest Joe Burrow LSU fans, but man, I got to give respect where respect due. Joe Burrow is that guy, and Jamar Chase is that dude. I mean, they have T. Higgins. They have other receivers, Osborne, Irwin. They got two running backs. They utilize them. I mean, but to me, it goes back to coaching. Zach Taylor, Callahan, their offensive mind, Amuna Aurora, I think I'm butchering his name, but the defensive coordinator, man, these guys know how to. The Bengals have an attitude. They don't care who they're going by, and they're led by Joe Burrow. But, man, they put on the clinic. You see Jamar Chase doing the gritty in the icy whites. I mean, it was in the snow. I mean, shouts out to the Bengals, man. All the Eagle Who Dat Nation out there. No, Who Dat's the Saints. Who Day Nation. Forgive me, Saints fans. Forgive me. Who Day Nation, Bengals fans, Saints fans, Who Dat Nation. I know. It is what it is. So keep them coming. Somebody says, I'll take the Eagles, no Bengals. Nick Saban Jr. said he's got the Eagles versus the Bengals. Listen, a lot of people are on the Bengals are legit, man. I'm telling you, man, they are legit. So, and my favorite quote from the Bengals, they asked Joe Burrow after the game, because, everybody was talking about the neutral site game. They said Bills had sold out all these tickets in Atlanta for Mercedes-Benz, and the Chiefs have started to pre-sale for all these for this neutral site game in Mercedes-Benz. And they interviewed Joe Burrow after the game. They said, Burrow, did you all use that for motivation, that people were overlooking you? He's like, yeah. So y'all need to send those refunds. Talking about a drop the mic moment. Joe Burrow talking cash money. But the Bengals, man, they put on an absolute clinic, doing snow angels in Buffalo, New York. Man, road wins, man. I got to shout out to the Bengals. So, listen, Mahomes, you better get ready, because, listen, they are coming. But I will say, playing in Arrowhead, a healthy Mahomes is the great equalizer. He is the great equalizer. Kelsey, but I think it's going to come down to running game. Pacheco, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, McKinnon, they're going to have to take the load off of Patrick Mahomes in order for the Chiefs to be successful. But you look at how the Bengals stopped. The Buffalo Bills didn't even try to run the ball. They only had like 20-some yards rushing. It was crazy. So, listen, you got to be able to run the ball, because these defenses, if you want to get to the Super Bowl, You're going against tough competition. So let's get to the student section. Shouts out to the Bama Statter. He says Jalen Hurts versus Joe Burrow is a good storyline. It will be redemption for Jalen after Burrow thrashed Oklahoma in that game. Yeah, it would be a good game. But man, right now I think I got to go Eagles Bengals, man. But Jalen Hurts, and can we talk about Jalen Hurts? Can we just sit and just talk about Jalen Hurts? How proud we are of him? You know, like I mentioned earlier, Oklahoma fans, Bama fans said no, he's a Bama guy. Oklahoma fans said no, he's an Oklahoma guy. I think he's both, but he did graduate with his degree from the University of Alabama, so technically he's truly alum. But shouts out to Jalen Hurts. It's going to be an interesting matchup. Let's see. Keep them coming. My next topic was, we talked about the neutral site games, and I know the NFL rumors were out there. I know the NFL bigwigs, Roger Goodell, he probably not the happiest, because I'm quite sure he wanted to see that neutral site game in Atlanta between the Bills and the Chiefs. I mean, they would have sold out. That would have been one of the biggest games. But no, you don't have that. So my thoughts on the neutral site games, I'm not a big fan. Neutral site championship games, I think those teams fight hard all week 18 weeks to get home field advantage, and reward those teams for getting home field advantage. I think that makes the playoffs so unique. So that's my thoughts on the neutral site championship game. So let's go to the student section. Van Edwards says Falcons need to trade up for the first pick, get Bryce and other Bama players they can get. They need a culture train. It takes a winner to do that. You know, I think the Falcons need Eric Bieniemy. You know, me personally, if I'm a owner right now, I'm going after D'Amico Ryans, Eric Bieniemy. Who else is a good coach? It's some other guy, Mike Kafka, offensive coordinator from the Giants. It's a couple other guys, but right now I think the Falcons need Eric Bieniemy. I think they need if you're gonna draft Bryce, I think you don't need the current regime. The current coach, Arthur Smith, I believe, he comes from that Derrick Henry, Tennessee Titans offensive kind of run, pound. I mean, they're great up front, but right now you got to be able, once you cross that 50-yard line, you got to be able to throw that thing. And that leads me to my next topic. The best offenses to me in the NFL game or in the college game, teams that cross the 50-yard line, they are taking shots in the end zone. So that makes me think, is the 50-yard line the new three-point line for football? And I think you have to say that the 50-yard line is the new three-point line. You look at Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Hurts. He's taking a lot of shots deep. Brock Purdy. I mean, with Brock Purdy, they don't take a lot of shots deep, but they work the inside of the field. So it's going Kittle to Ayuk to Deebo Samuels, then the McCaffrey. They kind of rotate inside out, but. Man, speaking of Bryce, I had this crazy thought. Watching the Cowboys look so bad and Dak Prescott throwing 2 picks, I was like, you know the Cowboys who they could really use? Bryce Young. And I'm like, listen, don't put it past Jerry Jones. He's already losing $95 million. I mean, you look at Jerry, would he make a phone call to Jim Irsay to the Colts and say, listen, man, I can give you Dak Prescott. You let me get that number 4 pick. You let me get that number 2 pick with the Houston Texans. I mean, Bryce in the Cowboys. I mean, that will be interesting. That will be interesting. So you never know. I think Bryce is going to the Houston Texans, to be honest, unless the Colts come up and trade for him. But I think the Colts are happy with CJ Stroud. I think he's kind of an Ohio State guy, Midwestern. He kind of makes the transition to Indianapolis. He's played in that dome. But I do think it's best for Bryce to go in a dome team like the Colts I know the Energy Stadium, Houston, is kind of inside. I think they got a retractable roof, so that will be interesting. But Bryce, man, it's going to be interesting. So let's get to the student section. Shouts out to all the student section. Hit that like, subscribe. Xavier G said Matt Caddell for receivers coach. Yeah, I love to coach receivers. Let me call the plays. Bet you I can do a better job than Bill O'Brien with all that talent. Bama Center says the Ravens can trade Lamar Jackson for the #1 pick and get Bryce. I mean, you could. I mean, right now the Bears, it's going to have to be a three-way trade. Right now the Bears have the #1 pick, so I don't think the Bears would take a Lamar, but they might. Excuse me. So I think you have to have another team mixed in. That way the Bears don't fall out the top 4 or top 3 picks. Take a Will Anderson, Jalen Carter, that type of play. But man, I don't see I would love for the Ravens to get him. If Isaac Newsom was the GM, shouts out to Isaac Newsom, the great legendary Alabama GM, former Alabama player, NFL Hall of Famer, and NFL GM, great. Listen, Isaac Newsom will be trying to get Bryce Young. He loves Alabama players. But yeah, that would be interesting. But I do think Bryce is going to be a Houston Texan. I really do. I really do think Bryce, that's kind of the fit for Bryce Young. So, excuse me, I'm getting choked up just thinking about Bryce, how good he was at Alabama. So, Van Elber said, let's get to the student section. Hire me, I can make O'Brien leave. Yeah, I think O'Brien's going to the Patriots. I think we're just waiting for this football to go. I think you'll start hearing noises after the championship game. I think it's 2 weeks in between the Super Bowl and those divisional championships. So I think that's when you start hearing about Bill O'Brien, New England. I know he interviewed last week, all that good stuff. So be on the lookout for some good news regarding Bill O'Brien. Sorry. Nick Saban Jr. said, if you were the Bears, would you keep faith in Justin Fields or would you get Bryce? For me, golly, I will hold on to Justin Fields for this year. For me, I would try to trade out that pick, see if I can get an additional first round, and if I can drop to like number 3 or 4 and, maybe finesse the Colts or the Raiders or somebody to give me an additional pick in the first round, and it's in the top 5 where I can still get a Jalen Carter or a Will Anderson, then yeah, I trade that pick because, if I get an additional pick, I'm all about draft picks. If I get additional first and maybe another second or a third, yeah, you can have it. But I think if I'm the GM, Fields is really good. You look at the success of other running quarterbacks, Lamar, Jalen Hurts. The Bears started having success watching what the Eagles were doing with Jalen Hurts, and so I would kind of stick it with Justin Fields this year. And if it doesn't work out this year, you can come back maybe next year and get a Drake May or Caleb Williams in the draft. But that's what I would do. Let's see. Justin Fields needs weapons. He does. A lot of teams need weapons. So it's very interesting. So let's get to the student section. Thank you. Van Elber said, I grew up on Matt Caddell, Keith Brown, Julio Jones, Norwood, group of dogs. Yeah, we were some dogs. I never questioned if they would get the job done. Yeah, it was just a different mentality, but I think Alabama has those guys right now. You look at a Jermaine Burton, a Ja'Cory Brooks, Bond, Kendrick Law, Shaz Preston, Kobe Prentice, and those freshmen we got coming. Oh, and Malik Benson. Oh, man, that's what I'm saying. That's why I think the quarterback position is going to kind of be geared to Ty Simpson because we have so many weapons. I don't think we can, I don't think we can waste. And hopefully Milroe is developing, working his tail off this offseason, working on his downfield passing, pocket awareness. But he's going to come up to the offensive coordinator. So, but me personally, from what I've seen last year, I think it's tied with the weapons we have. But that's why we have spring ball. So let's get to the student section. Matt Caddell, offensive coordinator, can teach. You got to be a dog to show it. I agree. I agree. So let's get to my next topic. Man, it was Holly Brown did replace him with the playmaker. Matt, with the NFL draft set up, is really getting a great thing for players to be drafted in the top 10 spots. Listen, I got 3 Bama players in the top 10. Branch at 10 with the Eagles. I don't see Branch going past 10. The Eagles, I think they have 2 first-round picks, 10 and 31, and I think they get 2 Bama guys. They already love Bama guys. I mean, look, they got Landon Dickerson, Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, and if you get a Gibbs to go with that offense, with a Miles Sanders, good zone, you run a lot of zone reads. You're talking about an explosive offense. The couple with the Miles Sanders, Devontae Smith, AJ Brown. I mean, that's good. And you get a Swiss Army knife in the most versatile defensive secondary player that I've seen in a while in Brian Branch to go with CJ Gardner-Johnson, Darius Slade, Bradbury, put him kind of in that nickel safety role. Ooh, I mean, I'm talking about the Eagles could have a huge draft just if they draft 2 Alabama guys. So Howie Roseman, if you need GM help, please call me. I can help you with your draft, the 10 and 31 pick. I gave it to you. Just tune in to Football University every Monday night. We got you. So that's what I would do. Yes, like I said, I got 3 Alabama players going in the top 10. So before I get to my next topic, I talked about the 50-yard line being the new 3-point line. I want to talk about offenses who they're off. I got to go back to offenses this weekend who just put on clinics. I'm talking about efficient third down rates, first down rates. It was crazy. When I say the Bengals, Zach Taylor, they had 27 first down. Like, they converted on all of their third downs. And they held Josh Allen in explosive defense with Stephon Diggs to it was the first 9 drives. They were only 1 for 8 when it comes to touchdown drives. I mean, kudos to the Cincinnati Bengals, but teams that have great coaching and great third down eventually where efficiency can get off the field on defense. You look at a D'Amico Ryans led defense. They get off the field, they get turnovers. It's going to be interesting. I mean, those teams are the teams that are going to go to the Super Bowl. So right now, with the gimpy, one-legged Patrick Mahomes, I think he's going to be healthy. But, man, it's going to be interesting. And let's just pause real quick, and let's just appreciate football real quick. But let's talk about, to me, I think what's the Super Bowl is the NFC Championship. The San Francisco 49ers traveling up to Philadelphia and play the Philadelphia Eagles. If you're the Philadelphia Eagles, who do you try to stop first? Do you try to stop Deebo Samuels? Do you try to stop Christian McCaffrey? Do you try to stop Kittle? Do you try to stop Ayuk? Or do you try to stop Brock Purdy? I think it's going to be interesting. I think they're going to try to put pressure on Brock Purdy. I think the Cowboys defense actually played a better game. They could have won. Just their offense let them down. So I think the Eagles are going to look at that game tape, kind of utilize some of those things. I know Shanahan likes to boot and move Brock Purdy around the pocket. So to me, I'm trying to figure out how does this matchup play out. If I'm the head coach, if I'm the offensive coordinator, if I'm I'm not gonna say if I'm D'Amico, because D'Amico is, his own. He's the GOAT. He really is. But man, you look at D'Amico. How does he try to stop Jalen Hurts in this offensive scheme that they have? But D'Amico has the pieces. Fred Warner, best linebacker. Young linebackers out there, watch that clinic tape that Fred Warner put out there. Coverage, hitting, physicality, smarts, football IQ, stopping the run, tackles for loss, Nick Bosa, body leverage, coming off the edge. It's going to be interesting. Greenlaw, it is going to be interesting. So let's get back to the student section. 6-0. Can't y'all see the fear in the rest of the SEC teams when Milroe at the helm? A multi-threat QB is lethal. Milroe is lethal, but I think it's a win-win for me from what my eyes have seen. I can't overlook Ty Simpson, man. That guy, like I said, I do think it's come down to the OC. So, I mean, whoever the offensive coordinator is, he's got a good, option to come to, and speaking of Mahomes, whoever the OC is, it's important that we keep whoever the start is and we keep our backup happy. We're going to have to give our backup playing time because you look at Mahomes went down, Chad Henne came in. When we had Tua and Jalen, Tua went down, Jalen came in. So it's important that you have an effective backup. But I hope that whoever the offensive coordinator is, they develop our quarterbacks. And, for me, it's going to come down to who has the less turnovers. Whoever has the less turnovers. And I know all Cowboys fans are so mad at Dak, but you got to look at Josh Allen too. I'm going to say it. Dak led the league in interceptions. He had 15. 6 of those games, he had 2 picks. Josh Allen had 14 picks. In 6 of those games, he had 2 picks. And he had 11 games with 1 pick. So, I mean, I do believe Josh Allen's a better quarterback than Dak. I think if you put Josh Allen in that Dallas system, I think he's a better quarterback. But you could look at the argument and say Josh Allen has just as many turnovers as Dak Prescott. So, I did want to bring that up, but let's get to the student section. Ty Cobra says Miro could be a beast with the right coaching. I mean, I agree. Like we learned from these playoffs, it takes great coaching. We're going to have an offensive coordinator that plays to our quarterback strengths. I just think it's up to Milroe if how great Milroe wants to be, because you got to look at Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, say what you want. He ended up was the guy at Alabama, then he ends up leaving because of Tua. But one thing about Jalen has character. He's a relentless competitor. He's a warrior. He has that type of self-determination, the tenacity, the focus, the perseverance to be dominant. And he continued to work at his game. I've said this time and time again. Jalen Hurts continued to work on his downfield passing. You can see it from him leaving Bama, going to Oklahoma. You see the improvement he kept improving from Oklahoma to his rookie year. And you saw the improvement last year, and he really peaked this past year in this offseason, working out with Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown. But the team invested in weapons, and the coaches put a scheme in there for him to be successful. So, like I said, we can say Milroe, yeah, he's going to be a dog. It's up to the OC, but I think it's up to Jalen Milroe. I mean, how good do you want to be? Because you got Ty Simpson behind you. Ty's pushing it. I'm telling you, man, from what I've seen, Ty's got it. So it's up to Milroe, in my opinion. So let's get to the student section. 6-0 says Dak is just playing dumb. That is all. Van Edwards says, Josh Allen has a bigger arm than Dak. Josh is better supporting cast. No excuses for him. Not a Dak fan, but who does, he have around him? That is true, but I still got to place some of the onus on Dak Prescott. I mean, some of those picks were very elementary. Like the first pick he threw to Taj Gibson, he had the check down with running back with Zeke or Pollard. So he looks at him, but didn't throw, and then tries to throw a cornerback 5 route late, and the defender's already coming up to hit the check down, so he threw it perfectly. So, I'm like, Dak, you're getting paid $95 million. I mean, you just coming off a performance at Tampa Bay, 4 TDs. I got to put it on Dak. I'm sorry. I love Josh Allen. Josh Allen has a lot of picks too. And so I'm critical of Josh Allen as well. But golly, I'm just saying Dak, some of those picks, and I can't say that it's all Zach, but kudos to the 49ers defense. I mean, they had everything covered. They knew him They schemed him. They knew he's probably a one-read guy. He knew what Kellen Moore was going to try to do. So I just think all in all, Kellen Moore, Dak, mainly most of the owners, I'm going to say about 70% is going against Zach, and the rest is going to go against McCarthy and Kellen Moore, his offensive coordinator. So that's my 2 cents. But so yeah, but crazy football weekend. I'm so excited. So let's get to the student section. Vanner, am I the one? She says, "Am I the only one who doesn't want Jeremy Pruitt?" You might be, but I think anybody Pruitt's better than Pete Gold. I do think it's going to be a Pruitt is going to be on staff, and I think we probably get Glenn Schumann, who's a Bama guy, but Georgia fans, they're all up in arms about Glenn Schumann. So I do, from what I have heard Leonard, it's kind of Jim Leonard, who's the former Wisconsin D coordinator. I don't know where we are. I haven't heard anything regarding him. But I have heard from, some guys that I know, Justin Riley, Bama Standard, saying that he might be an NFL guy. So it'll be interesting to see, but I trust Saban. At the end of the day, I trust Saban. I think Coach Saban is motivated, like I said, time and time. Him being on that desk and watching Georgia in the national championship and David Pollock saying, Georgia, they went back to back. So he's basically stating facts. But I think Coach Saban internalized it. I think he knows he had to get rid of his coordinators. I think Coach Saban is going to be militant and being ready to get back after it and get back being dominant. So, but I think we're going to start with our 2 hires, the offensive and defensive coordinator hires. So, so let's get to my next topic. Ty Colbert says, "Thank you, Pollock." Thank you. Alabama fans, we were wondering what's up. Where's the mean Coach Saban? I've been chewed out by Coach Saban many a time. So for him to be on the sideline, just this calm, cool, collected guy, and I'm like, Coach Saban, we're down, we're losing. Why aren't you chewing guys out, especially your coordinators? I'm kind of glad to see the more angry, mean Coach Saban back on the sideline. And somebody, Van Edwards, brought up a good point. I'm telling you, Jeff Sabota is a great offensive coordinator. Tulane's offensive coordinators I would take right now that are in college. I've heard a lot of rumblings about Jeff Lebby as the OC, but Tulane's offensive coordinator, if we got him, man, that would be a home run hire. And Joe Brady, and think of this so Joe Brady's the quarterback's coach for the Buffalo Bills, and he's watching his former guys. He won national championships, basically run their offense, and he's sitting up there just watching Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase put on the clinic against his defense. So, I'm kind of glad the Bills didn't look that great, because maybe it makes Joe Brady seeing Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow do their thing. Hopefully that motivated Joe Brady to be like, man, let me call Coach Saban back and see if that offensive coordinator position is open. So, Joe Brady, if you turn into football university, come to Alabama, we'll take you to T-Town. But, I do think Coach Saban has his offensive coordinator. He just had made the announcement. Like I said, I do think Bill O'Brien is the New England Patriots offensive coordinator. From what I think I heard, he's interviewed last week. He is the leading candidate from what I've heard. Look at Ian Rappaport, Adam Schefter, some of those insiders within the Patriots organization up there in Foxborough. So it will be interesting. But I will say this. Watching this divisional round, watching the Bills, the price of running backs has went up. It's going to be a crazy free agent season this year with running backs. You got Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley. You got a slew of running backs that are being the free agent market. Not even counting, I think, Miles Sanders. I think they're going to try to bring him back. So I think Bijan Robinson, the running back from Texas, who we saw play against Alabama, and Jahmyr Gibbs, I think their stock has risen I think they're solidified in the first round, and I think you're going to see when those two running backs come off the board in the first round, I think you're going to see a run on running backs. You look at a Tank Bigsby, guy who come in third, second round, or some of those guys. So I do think looking at these playoffs, teams still need to run the ball. You look at the Eagles, they could use a Jahmyr Gibbs, with that inside zone read scheme, the great offensive line. I think the stock of running backs has skyrocketed in these playoffs. Excuse me, let me get to my next topic. We talked about the 49ers. I mean, what a disappointment. Bad coaching, bad clock management, no situational football. We talked about NFL officiating, but can we talk about creative offensive minds? That's what's gonna prevail in these Super Bowl. Obviously, you look at the offensive minds. Nick Sirianni with the scheme that he has with Callahan, in the Philadelphia Eagles, Jalen Hurts. I already mentioned Zach Taylor. We already know about Eric Bieniemy, Andy Reid, and Kyle Shanahan. These four guys are creative offensive gurus who know how to call plays, who know how to dissect defenses. So in order for Alabama, like we talked about Alabama's offensive coordinator, we're going to have to get somebody who's creative offensive mind, because that is what's prevailing, and great defenses. You got to have creative offensive mind. I gave you the stats about the Bengals, how their attitude of third down efficiency. Joe Burrow, running the ball. They put on an absolute clinic. But creative offensive mind is what's prevailing in these playoffs and what's going to prevail in the Super Bowl. But we don't know who's going to win. So that's what we do at Football University. We're football heads, and we can't wait to see who's going to win. And I want to talk about this. And I know I sound like Coach Saban, and some of you saying I should be a coach. I love coaching. So if you need a coach, if you need a GM, please call me. Shouts out to the Tennessee Titans hiring Ron Carthon, former player, that he's become the first African-American GM for the Tennessee Titans. So way to pave the way for those guys. But you look at teams who have, I mentioned the Cincinnati Bengals organization, you look at their player personnel, the front office, and their coaching staff, and they utilize that talent. They're developing it, and they utilize it to fit their scheme. Those are your best organizations. You look at the San Francisco 49ers, John Lynch, Hall of Famer player. Ron Carthon, who's the Tennessee Titans GM now, comes from that. These teams who know how to acquire talent, develop, and put them in the schemes, those are the teams that prevail. But another key that I mentioned that said I sound like Coach Saban. The teams that are going to win are the teams that are consistent. Consistency wins. If you're going to do the right thing, consistency is going to win. Dak Prescott, he's been consistent all year throwing picks. Josh Allen, he's been consistent all year throwing picks. Jalen Hurts only threw 6 picks this year. He's been consistent and effective. Brock Purdy's been consistent. Mahomes has been consistent. And we know Joe Burrow has been consistent. So consistency in your play goes a long way. So for all you young players out there, get great at your game, get great at your craft, working on consistency. And we need Alabama to get back to being consistent and dominant. And I think Coach Saban's going to bring a lot of young energy type guys to kind of bring back that culture of being consistent and dominant back to T-Town. So, golly, consistency is the key. Those are the teams that are going to prevail. So let's get to the student section. Van Edwards brought up a good point. Can anyone tell me what went down with Ed Reed? Thought he was doing a great job. Ed is an inspiration to a lot of folks. Why did he leave? If you don't know, Ed Reed, he kind of took behind that role. Deion, former NFL great, going back to HBCU. He went to Jackson State. So Deion went to Colorado. So Bethune-Cookman, the HBCU down there in Florida, they're big rivals. FAMU, down there in South Florida, and they hired Ed Reed. And so Ed Reed was the coach. And Ed Reed had some statements, talking about, mismanagement and, talking about the administration and the things that he was going to do. And some people took it the wrong way. The alumni, he was kind of a rah-rah. We know Ed Reed. I mean, who doesn't? If you're a football fan, you don't love the passion, the enthusiasm, the energy that Ed Reed plays for. And, he's coming from the Baltimore Ravens, so he's used to things being run in a certain way, and he didn't have that. So, unfortunately, Bethune-Cookman got rid of him for only 2 weeks. And so, me personally, if I'm the athletic director, I wouldn't have gotten rid of him. I would have kept Ed Reed because, it's Ed Reed. He's going to bring in talent. I would have made him do an apology. That's the kind of age we live in. If you rub people the wrong way, you have to do a PR thing and be sincere and empathetic and say, hey, I apologize. I should have done this and that. But, I thought, that's what I would have done for Ed Reed. But that's the situation that's going to happen. But it's going to be interesting. But listen, Alabama needs a safeties coach. Ed Reed, come to T-Town, coach our safeties. I mean, we got the best talent. Caleb Downs. I'm just saying, come to T-Town. But yeah, so let's get to the student section. Manover says, Josh Allen is a mobile Brett Favre. You got to get what you get with him. Incredible arm show, but too much faith in it. Now, we'll say this about Josh Allen. And Ken Dorsey is the offensive coordinator. And I like Ken Dorsey. I know Joe Brady's the quarterback's coach. But I think Josh Allen started having all these turnovers because Brian Daboll is no longer the offensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills. I think Brian Daboll had a lot to do with helping Josh Allen, take big shots but not turn the ball over. You look at what Brian Daboll did with Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones was a turnover machine. Nobody was talking about Daniel Jones leading up to the year. You had Giants fans saying, man, I hope we can get a top pick and maybe draft Bryce Young. But the effect of Brian Daboll having a good coach, and we know how Brian Daboll was in Alabama, it's a lot of controversy. Experience. So, but yeah, I do think that was the reason Josh Allen had all those turnovers because he's missing Brian Daboll, and Brian Daboll's with the New York Giants. So let's get to the student section. 60 says Jared Jones calling Will Riker. Hope he'll reconsider and get back in the draft. Listen, we know Jared Jones got that money. Guy's worth billions, and I'm surprised Jared did not call Will Riker. Shouts out to Will Riker. Will Riker got married over the weekend, so congrats to Will Riker out there getting married. But, man, Will, man, you are a hot commodity, man. I just know alone Dallas Cowboys was probably going to draft you in the second or third round to get you as a kicker just this past year. So, I know you're coming back, but, man, go out and crush it this year. That way you can go be on the Cowboys next year because Jerry Jones is going to offer you that. He's going to get you after the shakiness with Brett Maher. I mean, golly, but Maher came through. He overcame adversity and was able to at least score points for the Cowboys. But, man, Will Riker, you are a hot commodity. Speaking of the draft, this is what we do at Football University. Senior Bowl is coming up. The Senior Bowl is coming up. It's one of my favorite times of the year. Football just runs through. You can say the NFL runs through the state of Alabama. No pun intended. We know we're talking about Tuscaloosa, but the Senior Bowl, Jim Nagy. We got a couple Alabama guys there who are looking to make waves. DJ Dale, Byron Young, Emil Ekiyor. I think Jordan Battle's playing. We got some other guys as well, but guys that I think they're going to make money. have the opportunity to kind of sneak in the first round. Byron Young, he is a really good defensive tackle. I mean, I've seen Byron Young in some games. I was like, he's our best defensive player on the field, besides Kool-Aid or Byron Branch. But man, Byron Young, if he goes down there and make noise, I think Emil Ekiyor at that guard position can make some noise going against that top competition. I mentioned Jordan Battle and some of the other guys. But yeah, I think Cameron Latu's playing down there in the Senior Bowl, 6'6", 6'5" tight end. We know his consistency. I think he's just got to work on his consistency, catching the ball, putting the ball away, no turnovers, but he has the frame. And he's still kind of young, making the transition from linebacker to tight end. So be on the lookout for those guys. So if you're in Mobile going to the Senior Bowl, watch those practices, man. It gets so heated and competitive down there. So I'm so excited to see how all these collegiate guys, I'm looking at the commercial just last year. Kenny Pickett was playing in the Senior Bowl, and Dak Prescott and Brock Purdy and Jalen Hurts. All these guys played in the Senior Bowl. So the Senior Bowl is a good way to see next year's NFL stars. So yeah, I wanted to talk to that. So let's transition back to the student section. Oh yeah, don't forget to hit that like, subscribe button. Let's go. Let's see. Nick Saban needs to find a place for Ed Reed. I agree. Ed Reed coaching up like Caleb Downs, bringing that Ravens defense. Oh my gosh, that would be kind of crazy. I mean, I would love to have Ed Reed. Ed Reed with a Pruitt and a Schumann. And an Armstrong. That would be pretty nice. To have it on the back end, man, that would be awesome. I haven't considered the Brian Daboll effect. Good point. Yeah, I'm telling you, Brian Daboll, I really think buff Josh Allen, he took a downhill trajectory, especially with the turnovers. Everybody was saying, man, this is going to be Josh Allen's MVP year. He comes off the year where they're 13 seconds away from beating Patrick Mahomes in Arrowhead, I guess, to play Cincy. And, they lose. And everybody was saying, oh, this is Josh Allen's MVP year. He was the leading candidate, preseason pick. Everybody had the Bills going to the Super Bowl. And, they threw a lot of turnovers. They need another receiver. They needed some running backs. They need to invest in the line. It's a lot that the Buffalo Bills, but I think missing Brian Daboll as the offensive coordinator really had a downward negative effect on Josh Allen's performance this year. Let's see. What I wanted to talk about? I talked about the draft. And I want to talk about we talked about aggressive offenses. We talked about just about everything. But let's preview. I mean, the Eagles, the Niners, that's gonna be a crazy game. I can't wait. Oh man, I'm saying the Eagles now. Like I said, I'm torn. I'm leaning towards the Eagles, just because they're playing again in Philadelphia. They're playing at the Link. It's a Philly thing. You've heard that. Jalen Hurts. I mean, right now, I'm just gonna take Jalen Hurts over Brock Purdy. And can we talk about Brock Purdy since we're bringing it back to Alabama? And I mentioned this last week on Football University. Brock Purdy, nobody knew. It was an article that came out that said Nick Saban this past weekend. It's the NFL weekend, and everybody's still talking about Alabama football and Nick Saban. That just shows you who's the kings of college football, regardless of what David Pollack says. Because nobody's talking about Georgia. Everybody's still talking about Alabama. But we'll give Georgia their credit. They went back-to-back. They won as a championship. Whoop-de-whoop. But everybody still talks about Nick Saban and Alabama football because that's what sells. That's what get clicks. That's what get likes. And the article came out, which I thought was purely false, said that Coach Saban told Brock Purdy, you have an average arm, you have average height, you're not that great. And they ran this article, and I'm like, hold on. This is false. Saban, if that's the case, why did Saban offer him a scholarship? Because he was going to Harvard. Nobody ever heard of Brock Purdy until Coach Saban went out there and recruited him and once he got that Alabama offer, Iowa State came coming. This just shows you the effect of Coach Saban evaluating players. You'll notice a trend. Once a top prospect gets that Alabama offer, here comes Georgia, here comes Miami. It's like clockwork. If you follow recruiting, you know these things. So the Alabama offer is still the premier offer in college football. I don't care what nobody say, because once you get the Alabama offer, you get 90% of the rest of college football D1 offers. It just is what it is. But I had to say, Alabama put Brock Purdy on the map, but nobody was hearing about him until we offered him. And once he got offered, then Iowa State, all these other schools started coming in, and that's how he ended up at Iowa State. So shouts out to Matt Campbell, what they do at Iowa State. He was able to get Brock Purdy. But I did want to mention this. I think Kyle Shanahan, he drafted Trey Lance, and he has Jimmy Garoppolo. But I think when I watch Brock Purdy play, you know who he reminds me of? What I see in that offense? Mac Jones. And in that draft, everybody was talking bad, but Shanahan was high on Mac Jones, and I think he had a lot of public pressure to not go with Mac Jones because Mac Jones did not wow you with his speed or his arm strength. But if you watching Brock Purdy play, it just reminds me of what Mac Jones, just a great distributor of the ball. If you put Mac Jones in that system with Kyle Shanahan, I think that was the match made in heaven, because I think he's better than Trey Lance. I think Trey Lance was very green. Obviously, he's injury prone. But when I see Brock Purdy, it kind of reminds me of Mac Jones when I see him in that offense. And I want to talk about that. So that's what we do at Football University. We talk football. We get in the weeds of things. So let's go to the student section before we hang it up. Like Van Edwards said, Saban offers you a scholarship. You got something, false story. Let's see. Van Edwards said Matt Caddell as OC, Boscar as RB coach, Coker for QB coach, Miko as DC. I can dream right now. Man, listen, if I could dream, D'Amico Ryans would be my defensive coordinator. Joe Brady or somebody like that would be my offensive coordinator. Joe Brady, if not Joe Brady, somebody from the Kyle Shanahan, Nick Sirianni tree, if we go the NFL route. But if we go the collegiate route, we know Garrett Riley's at Clemson, so we can't get Garrett Riley. I'm getting Tulane's offensive coordinator. Sign me up. That will be my dream scenario for OC and DC. Let's see. Got another comment. Let's see. Steelers gonna go after Joey Porter Jr., you think? They might. They might. Steelers Nation, this is what we do at Football University. I'm the professor. I'm usually always in Twitter and getting off in Steelers Nations. They are high on Bama players. They're looking at players like Henry To'oTo'o, Jordan Battle. A lot of these players, they're looking on the defensive end to look at Alabama players. So I think that will be really, really, really good. So somebody said, I like this. Somebody said, I agree with everything except QB coach. I'd rather have Jay Barker, Blake Sims, or Grant McElroy over Coker. Coker was a bad man. I ain't gonna lie. I love Coker. I went golfing with him a couple times. When Coker got it rolling, he got it rolling. But if I could pick a QB coach right now, that's a former QB that came through Alabama. I'm looking at somebody like Tua. He's coming from that Mike McDaniels offensive tree. And if Tua, if he never went back, but if I could have an offensive coordinator or QB coach, it'd be like a Tua, Jalen. Those two would be my first two because, they're just so successful. But since we're talking about Tua, isn't it kind of weird that Tua had all the college success and he took over for Jalen, but then Jalen looks like he's having more of the NFL success? Isn't that kind of weird? I mean, that's kind of a funny play on how things work, and it just shows you that you have to go to the right fit and the right organization, and you got to get an offensive system that fits you because luckily for Jalen, he was able to go to the Eagles. Nick Sirianni, they molded their offense to fit him. They got him weapons. They got him Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown. They fit a system for his talents and his strengths. And you look at Tua, we hope he's getting better. I hope Tua's working on, how to fall and not hit his head and take sacks and not injure himself this offseason. But you look at Tua, once they got rid of Brian Flores, I don't think he was the best fit for Tua. I think they had a lot of toxicity within that organization by Ross, the owner. Brian Flores wanted to go in another direction. You were hearing rumblings of Deshaun Watson and Tom Brady, and they really weren't putting their confidence in Tua. But once they got rid of Brian Flores and they got Mike McDaniels, they got an offensive coordinator, offensive mind that fits Tua's strengths. I mean, Tua has so much success. So, like I said, it just goes to show you got to have a good system for your quarterbacks to play to their strengths. But funny thing, the Bills, after they got whooped, all the Miami Dolphins fans were on the Buffalo Bills saying, listen, we're coming next year. So I think the Bills have a big opportunity to maybe get maybe a Saquon or a Josh Jacobs at running back, to kind of go with Tua to solidify that offense. Maybe get some more offensive line. You look at a Laramie Tunsil with the Texans, which I think they're going to pay him to stay at the Houston Texans to, protect Bryce. But Dolphins fans were running that mouth yesterday at the Buffalo Bills, and they had the right to because they got rid of their defensive coordinator. So I think the Dolphins are in a team that can make some noise. I think they're a little bit ahead of the Patriots in that division. I think this goes the Bills and the Dolphins and the Jets are kind of neck and neck, but I'm gonna give the Dolphins a little bit ahead just because of the quarterback situation. I think they have a better quarterback situation instead of Zach Wilson and Matt White. But Miami Dolphins, Tua come back next year healthy. Do not sleep on Tua, and I'm quite sure Tua's looking at Jalen, using that as motivation. And what if Jalen gets a Super Bowl first before Tua? Be interesting. But that's what we do here at Football University. We get into the weeds. We talk about all the football, but we're going to wrap it up. Let's see. We're going to wrap it up, and let's get to a few comments before we wrap it up. Thank you, Spence. If the Dolphins, Van Edwards said, the Dolphins get Gibbs in the draft, OMG, yeah. I think the Dolphins, I think they're going to try and go. They might get Gibbs. I don't know what pick they have. I'm quite sure they're in the teens, late 20s or something because they did go to the playoffs. So they're probably like 18, 19, 20, maybe early 20s. So Jahmyr Gibbs would be there. But I don't know I think they maybe try to address the running back situation in free agency. I mean, you can get a Gibbs, but man, if you can get like a Saquon with a Tua, I mean, golly, or a Josh Jacobs, and we already know how good that Josh Jacobs-Tua combination is. You look at the passing game, the running game, that could be deadly. And, Miami, Tua's still on a rookie contract. They paid all the money to Tyreek Hill. They're going to have to write another fat check for a running back. But if they have cap space, I mean, it would be nice to get a Gibbs, but maybe they settle for, maybe like a B-list running back, somebody who's maybe not expensive. Or like you said, man, there was drafting Jahmyr Gibbs to go with that. But I to go with their backfield. But that would be cool. So shouts out to James Knox, Todd Colburn, Spencer 6-0, Van Edwards, who else? Nick Saban Jr. Shouts out to all the Lori Caddell. Shouts out to all the student section. Happy Monday. Listen, get ready for this crazy football weekend. I'm so excited. Like I said, Eagles 49ers, which I think is the Super Bowl game right then and there, and the Bengals Chiefs. So, like I said, I got the Bengals winning, and right now I'm leaning towards the Eagles. So it's going to be interesting, but it's hard to go against those 49ers, man, because D'Amico Ryan's defense, Kyle Shanahan, Christian McCaffrey, Brock Purdy, Kittle, it is going to be interesting. But again, roll tide. Happy Monday. Enjoy your week. Let's get ready for next week. That way we can see how good we did on our predictions. Tune in, hit that like, subscribe. Have your friends tune into the show. I will see you next week. Have a safe weekend. Enjoy this football weekend, and let's get excited for Football University next weekend. Be safe. Have a great rest of your week. This has been another great episode of Football University. Peace.